Right, so what I'm doing here is basically cheating. I'm adding to the dark mask some soft, just airbrushing, where I've implied the skin is a bit thinner as it stretches over the horns, and I'm hoping in the render that this will imply a hint of transparency. Obviously, you know, in a mathematically perfect world, there would be transparency in the shader, and the horns would be modelled into the skull. Then again, there'd be every muscle modelled under the surface of the skin, and so on until it would be entirely unrenderable. So yeah, I'm just giving a hint of that in the color. Skipping the other side. And I use the fine displacement to mask it, just to I just want to keep the white or the lighter gathered edge defined. I don't want it bleeding into the it's basically my way of having a blend into the horn without it actually blending into the horn. I want that edge there, so you know where the skin finishes and the horn starts. But yeah, just implying that it's running together. Adding a bit more of the golden tan color, just a bit sharper and in smaller condensed areas. Just again using that as a bit of a stepping stone between the harsh mottle of the black onto the pale blotchy skin. So yeah, doing some test renders there. And yeah, to test render my color, I am stopping baking together my painting shader and outputting it into my render setup, my render scene in Maya. Just setting up the same way I did for the fine displacement before. I think I'm pretty much using a Fong with some specular settings and some render man subsurface turned on. It's very, very, very basic, but it's enough to show me my maps all working together. Obviously, once these maps were all worked up to a point, it would go into a stage of look development where the shader would be designed and polished. This is my blue, my red, pink veins. So that's that dirty, desaturated grey colour that I'm looking to get in there. So I'm just adding that to my shader now, my painting shader. When you add a shading module to your shader, it will react unusually because it just picks up whatever you have selected and autofills all the settings. So you just need to go through and get your settings right. Here I'm just working out how I want to achieve the look I'm going for with the desaturated color. So I'm going to use a combination of blending a masked, a diffuse blend and a masked constant color, as I want to darken the area and add a slight hue shift to it, but mostly I want to retain the value information beneath it. So yeah, it's just a combination. Yeah, but I'll be driving it all with one mask, so it's just kind of mixing the effect and then applying it. I want it to be darkening, but yeah, I don't want to knock out, yeah, as I said, any of the value underneath and undo the work that's been done, which is quite different to the super dark patterning I've put on the top layer. Just using it in areas to knock down the contrast between the knock down the contrast. Add a stepping color between the pinky flesh and the super dark model. I've left the patterning down the back of the head and the shoulders. I'll fill it in at some later point. Mostly just concentrating on the front. Just dialing some adjustment to that, to the effect of the mask. find it quite important to skip between lighting modes. You always want to keep checking it in flat lighting just to see what the actual balance of what you have applied is. You might notice I'm starting to get a few GL errors just while I'm tumbling. You can see the shader freaking out slightly. Well, I mean, I'm not really worried about it because I'm not painting on it while I'm tumbling. But yeah, that does seem to happen when you get to a certain amount of layers in your shader, depending on your graphics card and your your hardware specs. I find it's the blending modes that are the heaviest. So the overlay that I have at the top of the stack is probably causing that. Here I'm just going into, I just painted my eyes in Photoshop, and yeah, I was going for that paley green color, so I'm going back and pulling the saturation of the iris down my PSD. I'm just using one PSD that's got two, the groups are duplicated, and I've just got one for the left and one for the right iris. I haven't bothered painting the sides and the back of the eyeball, as you'll never see it in this render. Yeah, it's one of those things, the iris, I could swear when I was rendering it in a grey environment before I added color to the render, the iris looked reasonably desaturated, and then getting the green next to the red of the skin, the reds and pinks, it looks a lot brighter and healthier, which is not what I'm looking for, so I'm just pulling the saturation down a bit. Yeah, and having slightly asymmetrical irises. And that's that red ring that I was talking about before, that I will play together with the red bleedy blotches in the inner eye area. Yeah, so he's looking like the concept. The heavy mottling on the shoulders, I think, could definitely I could bring it around the front of the chest a bit, just to make it look less isolated. So here I'm not going to use the same hand painted method. Well, I am, but just to quickly block it out, I'm just going to add to it, playing around with a few different brushes, just because I have to get this done reasonably fast. So yeah, just bringing it around the clavicle and onto the chest a bit. I still want to keep it heaviest at the I guess the suntan area on the top of the shoulders and around the back. Just going to block it in with this brush. Sorry, I've forgotten the name of the brush, but it's just one of the organic brushes. And then I'll go through and sharpen it up with the crow's feet brush that I used for the face. have that annoying glitch in the paint buffer. Just skipping forward a bit there, just carrying over what I did on one shoulder to the other.